What's up, guys? This is Tommy with Tommy Nation Politics. I hope everybody's doing good today. It's Tommy Nation Tuesday, and I'm here with U.S. Congress Democratic nominee Jill Abasane, Minnesota District 7. So we're going to have a fun conversation. Chat's on. So this is Tommy Nation Politics, guys.
Hey guys, this is Tommy with Tommy Nation Politics. How's everyone doing today?
Tommy Nation Politics.
Vote, the yeas are 49, the nays are 51. 3/5 of the senators duly chosen and sworn not having voted in the affirmative. The motion is not agreed to. The majority of the American people believe in defending a woman's right, her choice, to decide what happens to her own body. And this vote clearly suggests that the Senate is not where the majority of Americans are on this issue. It also makes clear that a priority for all who care about this issue, a priority should be to elect pro-choice leaders at the local, the state, and the federal level. Because what we are seeing around this country are extremist Republican leaders who are seeking to criminalize and punish women for making decisions about their own body.
Newly released emails from the Kentucky governor's office show that President Joe Biden planned to nominate a Newly released emails from the Kentucky governor's office show that President Joe Biden planned to nominate a Republican opposed to abortion rights to a lifetime appointment as a federal judge in the state, just a day before the U.S. Supreme Court overturned its landmark 1973 Roe v. Wade ruling. The emails released on Wednesday show correspondence from a White House official advising that Biden intended to nominate Chad Meredith on June 24th to serve as a district court judge. Biden, a Democrat, has been sharply criticized by abortion rights organizations and progressives in his own party since reports emerged last week that the White House was considering Meredith, a former Solicitor General and conservative who has defended abortion restrictions in Kentucky. The White House has declined to confirm the planned nomination ever since the Louisville Courier-Journal first reported the news. A spokesperson on Wednesday said it does not comment on judicial vacancies until nominees are named. An email sent on June 23rd, the day before the Supreme Court reversed Roe v. Wade, shows Kathleen Marshall, a White House senior advisor in the Office of Intergovernmental Affairs, saying Meredith would be nominated the next day. In a June 29th email sent hours before the Courier-Journal's first report on the nomination, Marshall wrote that her original message was, quote, pre-decisional and privileged information. Meredith, now counsel at the law firm Squire Patton Boggs, did not respond to requests for comment. Kentucky Governor Andy Beshear and Representative John Yarmouth, both Democrats, opposed the nomination, which Yarmouth said is likely a part of some larger deal on judicial nominations between Biden and Senate Republican leader Mitch McConnell, who would be required to approve district court nominees from his home state. Robert Sturrer, a spokesperson for McConnell, said his office won't have a comment until if/when the president makes his nomination.
Guys, this is my pleasure to present to you U.S. Congress Democratic nominee Jill Abasane from Minnesota District 7. Jill, how's it going today?
Very fine. Happy to be with you guys.
Happy to be with you. It's super hot in Texas. I hear you guys have a land of 10,000 lakes. Is that what it is?
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's nice. It's 70s, maybe 75 with a little breeze evening. But
oh man,
I'm sorry. But we go to Texas in the winter. It's okay. Go ahead.
Yeah. I think we broke new records in the Texas heat. Some kids were frying eggs on the sidewalk, just like science class. So it's bad. It's about 110.
Yes,
so we've got the climate going crazy. We've also got the Republicans and Democrats going crazy. So I'm glad to hear that you were endorsed by who endorsed you as the Democratic nominee for Minnesota?
Yeah, well, Minnesota has. I think we're the only state where we have the DFL. We're not the DNC, which is the Democratic National Party. Under Hubert Humphrey, they put together the Democratic Farm Labor, and we've always kept that name. We lost the farmers somewhere along the line, but we're trying to get them back. But so the DFL nominated me. It's a state organization of the Democrats.
Okay, cool. So you're going to be on the ballot in November, correct?
Correct. Well,
Well,
yes.
good.
Okay.
So,
There's a primary, but we can talk about it.
oh, there's a primary?
Yeah.
I thought all the primaries were over. I didn't even know that. So when is the primary?
I'm not sure if states, I know it's August 9th.
Okay.
Whether it's across the nation, I'm not sure.
Okay. So that's going to be interesting because you're going to have a primary, and then in November they're going to vote, for the who is going to be the candidate, or So that's going to be interesting. You only have really a month and a half to prepare if you win the primary to actually.
We're preparing as if we are going to win it. I would like to say, and it's she is like a Republican spoiler. Her father is a very, very conservative state senator here, and she interned underneath Republicans. She's a pro-gun, pro-life Democrat, she says, but she doesn't hold any of our Democrat values.
So speaking of Democrat values, it's hard to really know what those are now, because you have, of course, Manchin, who seems to be the president of the United States. He seems to be, and then his wife is in his cabinet somewhere. It's very interesting because it's almost like we're rewarding bad behavior. He voted for with the Republicans to try to kill abortion rights all over the country. I haven't seen the president say anything about that, and then the president himself is working with Mitch McConnell. If you know the Louisville Courier, they reported those emails. So what do you think of all this going on inside the Democratic Party? This
first of all, it's very interesting watching those clips that you put on. I had not seen that, and I'm quite addicted to the mainstream or MSNBC, and that it could be because I've been busy recently. It sounds like that clip just happened about the emails and Mitch McConnell, correct?
Right. Yeah. Okay.
But it just seems like extremely deep politics, and it's mainstream politics, and Biden, bless him for all he does that's right, but it's the old political animals doing what they do.
Yeah.
And all we can do is have new people that will go forward with maybe a more imaginative system or process, and try to change it bit by bit.
So speaking of new people and more imaginative process, like, do you have an actual platform that, like, what exactly you intend to do if you get into office at all?
Well, yes. Well, we have. I guess because I'm a Democrat and always have been. It's what we always try to bring knowledge and to the people, which is that we believe that healthcare is a right for everyone. And we would hope for universal payer, one payer system, like they have I have friends in Canada. I've been in England. It's a system that works very well. I doubt if we can move in this generation towards that, but limiting healthcare is an anathema, and they've limited it to women of reproductive age, and I think that's just. It's against human rights. It's our right to have medical care. So that's one thing. Rural access to healthcare is a big challenge out here. My district is extremely rural. It's all of basically Western Minnesota. And it can take an hour. I had a friend of mine needed back surgery, and somehow he got a leak from his spinal cord, and his wife had to drive him an hour to the hospital. He was in such pain, he tried to get out of the car a couple of times. We don't have the transport to bring them. It's so far. This happens in every county. And they're getting further and further apart as hospitals join up and become consortiums. So we are rural people, and we deserve the same services as our urban counterparts. So
why are hospitals becoming consortiums in the first place? Why is that? Is it is the corporate neoliberalism doing that?
Yes, it's a corporate thing. I think it's the stockholders ultimately They do base things on population, but our population is limited, and it's going to be more limited as we don't have the kind of services that the urban areas do. So who wants to raise a family and know that maybe if she's pregnant and goes into labor, she's got to go an hour and a half to get to the hospital?
That's not going to work. That
Yeah,
sounds
so-
like that sounds very third world. That was a movie. I don't remember the movie, but it's this woman in Africa that she
Yes.
had to get on the bus and go all the way to the hospital herself while she's in labor, and
Yes.
like so they got somebody gave up her seat. I mean, is that the kind of thing that we want in this the richest country in the world, like Bernie Sanders?
Right.
Says?
Well, it's not going to happen in the urban areas. It's going to happen in the rural areas, certainly first.
Right.
I don't know what's going to happen there. I have lived in the Middle East and lived in Cairo for about 10 years. That is third world. And there they say never call for an ambulance. You won't get anywhere. You have to go to a hospital in a taxi, and you have to get the taxi to your house. So yes, that kind of situation with pregnant women does go on there. You're right.
Wow. So this healthcare thing, what is your main challenger on the Republican side? Michelle Fishbach, I guess that's her name.
Well, yes. She hasn't made public statements recently, but her voting record shows that she's voted against making insulin prices, bringing them down, and affordable insulin act, I think what it was, and she voted against that. She's voted against care centers for the elderly and the disabled. I'm trying to remember all of the ones. She voted no on almost every issue that would definitely lower drug prices in general. So certainly her intention is not to change the system, but to probably aid the ones that I see are making life more difficult out here.
And she's in Congress right now, correct?
Yes, she is.
Yeah.
She's the first. Well, our seat was held by a Democrat for 30 years. His name is Colin Peterson. He wasn't as vicious, I think, as Senator Manchin, but he was a congressperson, and he voted pretty Republican-ish because a lot of the large food manufacturers, the sugar beet companies, the grain consortiums are located here. So he was certainly friendly to that, but it also he was the head of the agriculture chair in Congress, and he watched over the farm bill. And Fishbach got in during the Trump election and unseated him. And now I'm running. They haven't had a Democrat run for this particular office for 30 years.
So you said you have a primary. Is there another Democrat running against you at this moment, or is it just?
Well, she claims she's written herself in as a Democrat, but if you read her page, she, like I said, she's pro-gun, supposedly pro-life.
Okay, that's what you're talking about.
And evangelical.
Evangelical. So I guess that brings us.
That shouldn't be a problem, but yeah, what?
I mean, it just all depends on what evangelical means, because there's
Yes, I have
there's a culture war going on in this country, and it's what honestly, Jill, it seems to be the thing that's dividing this country the most, and what corporatist Democrats and Republicans seem to be holding on to divide our country are these culture rules of the drag queens are reading your stories to your kids. And these are all the things that you should be afraid of, the radical leftists. When in reality, who's on the commission? Who's on January 6th? Not progressives. I don't know a single progressive who's on the January 6th. What do you think about the January 6th commission? I'm sorry.
That's very. That was quite a little turn you did there. I don't know if they kept the progressives off. We'd have to call them progressive Democrats now, right? We're talking that way.
Yeah,
because we don't. Okay. I don't know if they were kept off or they didn't want to take part in it because perhaps it was seen to be not the way to solve issues. I'm not sure. I'm not sure the politics behind that. I don't. But you're absolutely right. It's all.
I mean, it's just funny because I just want to say this to my audience too. It's just funny how everybody's blaming the radical leftists, people that want healthcare, living wage, when in reality, on this commissions, the people that are voting no against abortion rights, it's not the radical leftists that are doing this. It's the corporatist Democrats with ties to big donor money. So I
Okay.
don't understand why the Republicans are, why the right wing is claiming that radical leftists are doing these things.
Okay.
Just so you guys know, leftists,
Yeah.
right?
What you and your audience can do is try to get that message out. We have to let them know that they got the wrong card going.
Yeah, they really do. So I mean, is there in the Minnesota area, if there's this kind of culture war going on, bringing it back to that,
Mhm.
is that how you're being smeared, labeled as a radical leftist? Like how is your opponent
You
trying to
know,
frame you?
I joined this campaign or very late. It was mid-May when I was tapped to run. So we don't have a lot of messaging out. It's all through our district and our different DFL units. I have
Right?
my message. I have my website, but no, her side hasn't picked up anything to smear. The worst thing
Really?
the worst
That's
thing that's
interesting.
happened is in parades that they yell "Let's go Brandon" at us. They what else? They said babies have rights, and that's about it. That's about as violent as anything's been, and that's not violent.
So how's
Or
it been that
zero.
they're just pretty much trying to tie you to a president with low approval ratings, and then
I would say
with their
so.
silly
That's true.
chants?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. I did have a friend that said all I care about is the price of gas is too high, and she says, "How are you going to solve that?" Well, that's a long conversation, but I could go into it.
Yeah,
But that
please, because the American people do want to know. Like, how
uh,
would you go about doing that? Because all of a sudden, it seems like Joe Biden has the power to lower gas prices.
okay.
So
First of all, we are not a socialist country. England, I believe, has done it, and perhaps other ones that I've not known about. But where they can tell the corporations you cannot make a profit this year because the prices are too high, and you got to not jack up the prices for our people. They do that. The president or the leader can tell the corporations what to do. Not in America. Biden can't go out and tell Aramco not to charge a certain amount of money so that it influences our gas prices. We can't do that. Right now, also, the gas that's in the pump was bought and refined a long time ago. So I think there should be rules of some sort of committee to be able to show the true price of the gas that's in the pumps so the people could plan or they would know ahead of time. It shouldn't have gone just jack up. Do you realize that the gas that we're pumping was bought with oil months ago?
I mean, it has to be to keep it in the ground, right? Look, Jack, you have it in the ground, like Biden would say. Uh,
Yes.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I don't really know how any of the specifics. I guess I'm starting to learn about the specifics of how we get our gasoline, which they
Um,
didn't teach us that in school. I'm sorry
but
to say.
yep.
Uh,
Also, they talk about take the taxes. At least in our state, it has a lot of state taxes on petrol. They want to bring the taxes down. But if we do that, then we lose infrastructure money for the roads that you're going to be driving on with the gas that you just bought. So,
just to answer your question, political patriot angle unfiltered. The topic is just where I'm interviewing Jill Abasane of the U.S. Congress District 7. And we're talking about the issues that are facing the American people. I'm talking about current politics today, all day. And I'm talking about, the issues that face the American people. So there's not really any specific topic. I've named my episode The Wheelman because it seems like in these midterms, we're all just, it's a Trump Biden affair. And like Jill was talking about, they're tying her to a president with low approval ratings. Let's go, Brandon. We're not talking about the issues that are facing the American people. We're talking about Trump and Biden once again. And these two characters are not helping our country in any way. Let's just put it
no.
that way, guys. So I don't understand why we're doing it. Patriot Angle Unfiltered, Jill, he's a conservative.
Okay.
So
Okay.
it'll be that.
And he did say it's up to OPEC who controls the prices, and he's right. So OPEC is not Joe Biden, although he did go over. They're their own entity.
He says that they control the prices. FERC also has roles in it. Well, I guess who else has roles in it? I'm going to play another video real quick. We're going to talk about this more, but we're going to talk about the Crown Prince Biden's visit with the Crown. Let's just put that on.
Language means a lot. Yeah, it was a very highly anticipated greeting, Carl, when MBS, the Crown Prince, greeted President Biden with a fist bump as the two walked into the presidential palace, where President Biden will be meeting with Saudi Arabia's King Salman, who is the elder leader, and he's the de facto ruling leader of the royal family there in Saudi Arabia. Earlier this week, there had been a ton of reporting that President Biden would not be shaking hands on this particular foreign trip, his doctors citing COVID precautions, but also conveniently, that advice allowed the president to avoid shaking hands in a photo op with the person that U.S. intelligence suggests was responsible for the killing of Washington Post columnist Jamal Khashoggi. President Biden is now going to be meeting with King Salman. Later, he will be meeting with MBS and other members of the royal family as well. And then later on in this trip, he'll be meeting with Gulf leaders in aggregate to talk about whether it's possible for OPEC Plus to produce any more than it already has, put any more meaningful amounts of oil onto the global market. We'll see what, if anything, that group accomplishes.
So I guess the response to that is, and this is all over, why are we begging Saudis for fuel? That's what Bagel says. I mean, these gas prices are now, this is funny because everybody has always said that these gas prices the president's not in control of them. They're actually now the biggest issue, like you said with your friend, that's facing the American people today. And so now this is an interesting thing that's happening right now. People control is happening over corporations. Patriot Angle, what do you think about that? Is that socialism? I don't know. But I don't know. What do you think about that, Joe? What do you think about OPEC and all this?
Okay, well,
Can they make more?
Well,
Oh, God.
if OPEC makes more money, and I taught in Saudi Arabia for a number of years, I've been around oil people. So if OPEC ups its production, it brings down the price of oil globally because there's more in the market. That's what's going on with that nut. So by getting the Saudis to or it wasn't just Saudi, it was the whole Arab group there, Gulf nations, to get them to agree to produce more, will put more oil on the global market and potentially bring down the price of gas when our gas corporations decide to bring it down.
When our gas corporations decide to bring it down. So
yes.
He says we have enough fuel in America for the next 900, 1,500 years.
Yes, we do.
I mean, that could be true. So
we have
how come they're not
kinds,
bringing it down? How come they're not bringing it down then? For
what?
massive profits, probably. That's my assumption.
Well, yeah. If you had a lot of gold on the market, the price of gold is going to go down. So there's the corporations hoard it or manipulate it so that the prices continue to rise. That's what corporations do. That's what stocks are.
So this is what my whole issue is with capitalism. You say we're not a socialist country. I don't know if you want us to be a socialist country or not. If I don't know if you're how far left you go, but this is the effects of capitalism to me. Is when you have it, if you have something on the market, the free market, that's popular and rare, and it's the one issue that's facing the American people the hardest. What are you going to do with it in the capitalist system? Aren't you going to make it more valuable to yourself? Aren't you going to make it more profitable to yourself? This is why capitalism also doesn't work in a country. Yep. This is why we're supposed to have a mixed system in the first place.
Yes.
Because this is capitalism on steroids, and this is capitalism not only on steroids, but we've got a neoliberal president that's literally begging the Saudis. If what you're saying is right, he's begging the Saudis. And that's capitalism, by the way. Begging the Saudis is capitalism. So I don't know, man. I don't know.
Interesting, because socialist governments have to deal with the capitalist system of the oil market, right. But they have they have their own country's resources and programs in place to deal with such fluctuations. I'm not advocating to turn our country socialist. I don't think we're ready for it. However, I look to the Nordic nations and how well their societies seem to run with a social democratic government. Forget which word comes first, but they're Democrat. They have democracy, and they use socialism as a way to even the field for all of their citizens.
Okay, so I think that's. I mean, that seems like a mixed economy system, a check and balance on that.
Mhm.
So, Jill, if you're on your campaign, what like these things that you're trying to hit your constituents, what would you say to your constituents right now? Why would your constituents need to vote for you instead of Michelle Fishbach?
Well, okay. She has Ms. Fishbach has done nothing but either obstruct important bills like our infrastructure bill, and there's so many. I should have brought the sheet in here. I'm sorry. She has voted no on education bills. She voted to repress women's reproductive health care. And just recently, she has, well, she's on a committee to break the farm bill. America's farming industry, their agricultural industry, has been with a farm bill since the time of FDR, and it was put in place to make sure that the farmers would not lose their farms and there would always be food. And they've helped it grow for all of these years. The former DFL seat holder, Colin Peterson, was the head of the Agriculture Committee, and watched this bill and tended to it. In 2023, it comes up for renewal every 5 years. And in 2023, it's going to be needed to renew again. If we don't have a Democratic Congress to get it passed to renew, the Republican Study Committee has a group and a proposal. And what it's going to do is unlink the nutrition programs, including SNAP. I don't know if Texas has SNAP, but it's the food stamp type program, which the farmers set aside a certain amount of their crop goes to the nutrition and aid department. Also, they're looking at changing the insurance that farmers carry for their crops, where now things like drought, pestilence are insured about, I think, 85%. And as a federal program, they want to remove the things except catastrophic loss. And so that can affect a lot of farmers. And so it's just like the farmers are going to lose completely if we have a Congress that allows the farm bill to expire and we have Republican farm bill. I know probably your audience isn't into farms, but it will affect us all eventually because it is our food source. So that's what I'm talking to people about out here in Minnesota.
Okay. Well, I mean, that seem to be the issues facing Minnesotans. I know we've got a lot of other issues that we could cover. So something I do want to end on, because Patriot Angle did bring it up, and we're
Sure.
gonna be. I'll be talking to your friend Jimmy the Rat later on in the hour. If you want to come on, Michael, you're more than happy to. But I have to do an interview right now. But one of the things I have to, so that's why I'm not reading. I don't want to censor you. I just want to play your comments that are relevant. But your friend got arrested today. AOC and Ilhan and 15 other Dems arrested. Do you have what was that about? What was that about? Do you know anything about that?
Well, it's back in the old days of civil disobedience. They knew they would be arrested. They weren't wild. They just quietly got arrested. They were protesting the Roe Wade overturn.
So one of the things that really gets me, and I really have to ask you this because you're a woman and you're a congresswoman, or you're going to be a congresswoman, God willing, is the fact that AOC is playing this game where she thinks that the SCOTUS was a precedent and it was settled law. She said it was settled law.
Yes.
In fact, if we all know the laws, if we all know the laws, Jill, we know that the Congress makes law. Congress has the power to make law. The SCOTUS or not, it's constitutional or not. That's third grade politics.
True.
And so it's just is it not just a blatant lie that because they didn't codify Roe v. Wade into law, they're going to blame the SCOTUS for going back on a precedent that they were not supposed to set in the first place because there was no law to set a precedent.
Tommy, I agree with you totally. I have no problem backing you with what you just said. I don't know if
I mean, that's just how it is. It is what it is.
yes, yes. I, it's
So
nothing. It's hard to have a talk show when you agree with the host. Uh, it's,
I know.
I don't know. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean to help these Democrats because they seem to be lost, and I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about AOC. They seem to be lost. They seem to be wanting to do protests and stuff when they're lawmakers. I just want to help everybody out. I want these lawmakers to get some laws into the House of Representatives, and I want you. Isn't that what they do? They make those laws. Get your staff together, make some laws, vote on them. Okay, stop blaming the SCOTUS. So let's do that. How about that? Is a plan?
Okay, well, I'll go to Washington and cheerlead for that.
Good.
I agree. I think there should be more done. I know it's a locked Congress. I know it's a tied issue, but I think we should bring that up. I also noticed, and I wasn't even aware of it until I got back into politics here, that the ERA was never ratified. So we aren't even full citizens under the law because Congress just kind of forgot about the whole thing and just let it stay. So we've got a lot of things to catch up to.
It's weird. They're forgetting about all kinds of stuff. They're forgetting about their power and rights. And I'm just saying, if you're going to stand up, Democrats, if you're going to try to stand up for rights and life and liberty, then you have to actually make laws to have that happen. Because you're in the branch where you got to make laws, guys. Can't be walking around blaming SCOTUS. So, guys, this was Joe Abasang, U.S. Congress, District 7, Minnesota. And I would endorse you because I think that you got what it takes. Although, Jill, I will say I'm going to be coming after you if you don't do what you say you're going to do, okay?
Just remind me first, but yes, I'm going to write this down.
All right, good. Jill, it was a pleasure to have you on the show, and I'm going to let you go now. But
thank you.
Have a great day, and thanks for being on Tommy Nation Politics.
Okay, carry on, Tommy.
Thank you. Yes, U.S. Patriot Unfiltered. Biden is Obama 2.0. Yes, in fact, we do need to vote out the socialist. Even though she's not a socialist, she literally doesn't even know her own job, Patriot Angle Unfiltered. She literally doesn't even know that she's the one that's supposed to make the laws. She's out there protesting, blocking traffic, like you said. What's a congresswoman supposed to do? A congresswoman is supposed to make laws, not be out in traffic. That's for people. That's what we, the people, are supposed to be doing. She's blocking traffic. She's not making laws. There's nothing socialist she's doing, U.S. Patriot Angle Unfiltered. She's literally just being a fucking Beto. That's what she's doing. She's being a Beto. We've got too many Betos. Not enough people that are making laws. That's my opinion. I mean, we'll see what happens. I hope she does. I mean, she seems better than that Michelle Fishbach. By the way, when Jimmy the Rant comes on, I really want to talk about Republicans, and I want to talk about how vicious they're becoming. Because they seem to be like on the edge of almost fascist themselves, really. Like they're fighting. I told him to go at 9. I'm about to show the House Republic committee right here. After these, of course, these commercials by
we're next
by YouTube.
Apple has the travel card for you. And earn 10x miles on hotels and 5x miles on Venture X or what?
I literally had to watch that entire fucking commercial because
percent of America 59 of Americans disapprove Biden's handling of ISIS and illegal immigration. Yet House Democrats want to talk everything except crises facing our country. Instead, down on their reckless spending with a bloated appropriations package that will only make our economic crisis worse. Once again, Pelosi and House Democrats are putting their socialist wish list ahead of the challenge of our communities. Inflation is sky high. Illegal border crossings are up and our communities are less safe. This is not a coincidence. This is what happens when one-party Democrat rule fails America. In my home state of New York, we are seeing a crime wave, including pro-abortion activists firebombed and vandalized an upstate crisis pregnancy center, which cost the center hundreds of thousands of dollars in repairs, critical funds that should have been used to save lives. This was just one of the over 50 acts of violence and intimidation against pro-life individuals, churches, and organizations since the initial leaked Supreme Court draft. And what have we heard from Democrats about condemning these? Silence. Crickets. The Biden administration and House Democrats did nothing about the violent crime wreaking havoc on our businesses. They dragged their feet, passing legislation to protect the Supreme Court justices, and now they remain silent on the far left's latest target, crisis pregnancy centers. Whether it is the crime spikes, the historic border crisis, or the cost of groceries, Republicans remain focused on addressing the issues facing hardworking Americans, while Joe Biden, Nancy Pelosi, and House Democrats are. I would like to now pass it over to my colleague, Congressman Mario Diaz-Balart, who serves on the Appropriations Committee. Mario.
Thank you, Elise. All right, I'm standing here in front of the first jury trial by Special Counsel John Durham in his ongoing quest to get to the bottom of the FBI's alleged spying against the campaign. And between what we were able to learn in that trial, as well as what we've been able to piece together over the past 3 years, we here at the Epoch Times were able to create this special report right here, which exposes of the people that targeted Trump campaign, the methods used, as well as the details of how the whole thing played itself out. This is a nearly 70-page special report that contains exclusive analysis on all of Durham's key findings, what their broader implications are, as well as a timeline showing you step by step exactly how the FBI missed a court in order to obtain spy warrants against an person. And the reason that this is so important is that if this can happen at the very highest levels of politics, well, frankly, what's stopping the FBI against the common people like you and me? And in fact, I believe the only thing that can stop it is sunlight, which is exactly what this special report is. It's a spotlight that exposes, using clear and concise facts and evidence, exactly what took place behind closed doors. This is an absolute must-read for you, your family, your friends, and frankly, anyone else in your life that you wish to keep informed. So click on that button below this video, get digital access to 2 full months for just a single $1. You will get this free special report on John Durham's investigation, absolutely free. That way, with the report, you can piece together everything that's happened thus far, while with the continuous coverage within the Epoch Times, you will get constant updates on everything happening next week, next month, as well as into the future. So click on the button of the video, claim your free special report, and experience honest, real news every single day.
Pan, but I'm worse at sleeping. With no plan combines rooibos masala chai with turmeric, cinnamon, turkey tail, reishi, passion flower, valerian root, ashwagandha, and chamomile, supporting a calm and relaxed mind, immune system, and helping with inflammation and stress. The best morning ritual starts the night before, and we're here to give you permission to rest.
Good morning, everyone. It wasn't that long ago, right, March, that we just finished the appropriation cycle. And you'd think that the lessons that should have been learned, but we're kind of starting in the same place that we were last time. The Democrats are now operating under fake numbers, unilaterally decided by them, with no input from Republicans. And there's no secret what needs to happen for us to have appropriation bills. The defense number is going to have to go up, and there's very strong bipartisan support to increase the defense number, and non-defense discretionary is going to have to go down. The non-defense discretionary in their increased by 14%. And so they prioritize the traditional liberal are just unreasonable under any standard. Some highlights, for example, because some of their increases in non-defense are just dramatic. Increase for the EPA, 17% increase for HUD, 30% increase for the Federal Trade Commission, 20% increase for OPM, and 430% for election security grants. And there are some areas where they increase that, frankly, it creates huge future liabilities. In essence, it becomes almost like the mandatory, and that's a case, for example, Section 8 vouchers in the part of it. And so, unlike what the Democrats continue to believe, you cannot address inflation by increasing spending, and yet that is what they're trying to do again. And so, while they do all that, they to address the energy crisis, they actually make it worse. They pursue partisan initiatives. The offshore oil and gas activities are further restricted. Oil and gas inspection fees are increased, again, just making a situation. We all know appropriate. We learned this. We did them in March. The pro-life protections are stripped out of this bill, out of these bills again, protections. So again, as we should have learned from just a few months ago, we're going to have an agreement that has to be a bipartisan agreement. Has to go up, non-discretionary has to go down. They have to stop their war on domestic energy and remove all these controversial partisan riders. Then we can move forward. But it seems that March was such a long time ago for them that they've even forgotten the lessons that they should have learned just a few. Mr. Joyce.
Thank you. All Americans are getting pummeled by the high inflation rates in this country. They've been the highest since 1981. Shelter, food saw the largest increases, which means that inflation is hitting the middle and lower class families that much. This should serve as a recheck for President Biden and my Democrat colleagues, and their out-of-control spending habits and anti-American energy policies have serious consequences. But instead of the ongoing economic burdens our constituents are facing, touch bills double down on wasteful spend accounts receiving double and even triple-digit increase. My subcommittee and environment subcommittee, the majority add new controversial policy riders that will be independents, but they also proposed a roughly $7 billion inflationary spending. Again, that's what the be, $7 billion, all while lacking an overarching budget plan. The increase for
Yeah, Jillian, Iran is racing towards a nuclear breakout because Joe Biden is engaging in endless negotiations with an anti-American regime that chants death to America. John Kirby is wrong. When President Trump withdrew from the nuclear deal, he didn't empower or embolden Iran. In fact, they barely got past the limits of enriched uranium under that nuclear deal in the Trump administration. Why? Because they were afraid of America after President Trump authorized the killing of their terrorist mastermind, Qasem Soleimani. Remember, in 2020, there were serious threats to our personnel in Iraq. What did President Trump do? He simply put out a statement saying that he gave some healthy advice to his friends in Iran, that if a single American was harmed in Iraq, we would hold Iran accountable. And that didn't happen. What's happened over the last year and a half, though? You see Iran is shooting missiles near consulates that we have in Iraq. They are continuing to support terrorism throughout the region, and they have raced to a near breakout level of enriched uranium. This has all happened on Joe Biden's watch because the Ayatollahs knew that Joe Biden didn't have the nerve to stand up to them.
The president just returned from Saudi Arabia. Should he or should he not have gone?
Oh, he should have gone, but he should have also never tried to ostracize a longtime partner. He shouldn't have called them a pariah. Look, Saudi Arabia doesn't have a perfect record, but no country does. If we only accepted perfect allies, Jillian, we wouldn't have any allies in the world. But the world's a dangerous place, and we need partners and allies like Israel, like Saudi Arabia, like the other pro-American governments in the Middle East, who may not exactly reflect our highest aspirations, don't have our representative form of government, but at least they are pro-American and they are willing to support us against the anti-American regime in Tehran.
Guys, this is Tommy with Tommy Nation Politics. This is the second hour of Tommy Nation Politics, the Wheelman, and I'm talking to Jimmy Durant from Patriot Angle Unfiltered. We're going to have some conversations about the right and the left and working together for the common good. Enjoy.
Hey guys, this is Tommy with Tommy Nation Politics. How's everyone doing today? Tommy Nation Politics.
Hey Jimmy, welcome to the show. You there?
I was still muted. Sorry. Hey, what's up, man? How you
Nothing
doing?
much,
Thanks for having me
bro.
on.
Hey, thanks for being on. I interviewed the first hour U.S. District 7 Minnesota Congresswoman Jill Abasane, and we had an interesting conversation, which Mike got involved in.
Yeah, I caught a little bit of the tail end of that conversation. So,
okay, cool.
I think you might have made her a little nervous because you don't like Biden. So,
I did make her a little nervous. You see that? And I also said I was coming after her if she didn't do what she said she's gonna do. I don't think these Democrats understand that I'm fucking taking this shit seriously. And like, I've had enough of this partisan bullshit. I don't think these Democrats understand that. They come on and they want to, talk about the campaign. I really like though how she didn't have any papers. I think she wanted her papers by the end of it. But I liked how it was all unscripted. It was Democrat unfiltered. And I like that because this is the way that you need to be talking, guys, to the American people. And you also, guys, you need to be making laws. If you're not doing those things, then I don't know. Your politics is getting in the way of the American people. And I think that's what we're seeing right now, Jimmy. What do you think?
yeah, I would agree. I think in your case too, it kind of shakes things up when you meet Democrats that don't support the current administration. So people get a little, they feel a little uncomfortable because I guess they don't know how to approach it after that. And then when you explain yourself, I think people probably open up a little bit more. But yeah, I would say that politics is definitely. I mean, it's one of the main focal points of everyday life now at this point. So it does affect stuff. It's affecting friendships, relationships, work. It is getting a little wild. So I will say that.
So one of the reasons that I wanted to have, I love having both a right and a left on the shows because I want to come together for the common good. And I know that we have a lot of issues that are not being solved because these Democrats and Republicans don't want to solve them. They don't. They want to make them talking points that they can run on. And so it's up to us to promote the general welfare, secure the blessings of ourselves and our posterity. One of the problems that I'm facing right now is, of course, all the American people are facing these gas prices. But one of the things that during Trump's administration, I can't get over the fact that these Republicans not only want to cheer on Mohammed bin Salman and the Saudi who took our weapons and gave them to Al Qaeda, the people that attacked us on 9/11. They call them our allies. They want us to. They don't want to investigate Jamal Khashoggi's death. They don't want to talk about it. Even Trump himself said it is what it is. He said, "quote It is what it is." When that information was brought to him. So this is an important issue that I want to ask you about, Jimmy. I don't know your background as far as intelligence or law enforcement goes, but are people our allies when they give us weapons? We give weapons to our enemies and they kill our journalists. Is this what do you think about all this?
Well, I'm not really a big fan of the Middle East and what goes on there. So I wouldn't say I'm a big fan of the Saudis or say that. Listen, I say that I'm on the right wing of politics, but it doesn't mean that I'm an alt-right or a radicalized right-wing person. I'm registered as a Republican. I'm more of a constitutionalist. I started off as a libertarian who kind of got pushed over to the right. So I'm not a big fan of those types of super oppressive countries or the type of culture that they are, their culture. I'm not really big on that. So what I would say is if we're talking about allies in a certain sense, they have the control of the oil. So of course, we have a big reserve, but listen, the oil's been traded in the dollar for a very long time. So I think they have us at a point where they almost have us by the balls because there's rumors of China and Russia, you know, and the Saudis selling in yen, right? I think moving over to selling to Chinese currency. If that happens, that's going to plummet our dollar even further. It's going to put us into chaos. So they kind of have us by the balls in a sense, in that perspective.
Okay. So this is how we got ourselves there, and it wasn't radical leftists, right? It wasn't radical leftists that did this. It was having MBS having us by our balls. It was the corporatist neoliberal policies, right, for the last 40 years that have put us in this situation. I just want to make that clear, right? Wasn't it? Wasn't it not the radical leftists? Wasn't it the corporate neoliberal policies?
Well, you have to understand. Like, I think you'll find that I won't disagree as much because I try not to be as irrational as some people and scream out stuff, right? So I think
like that about you. I like that about you.
I think that, but there's certain things that I'm firm on, right? So again, that's what pushes me over to a certain side of people, right? What I would say is it's years and years and years of policy and trying to open those relationships up. A lot of proxy wars, a lot of kind of moving in on the Middle East, and I think since we've been in the Middle East, there's always been like that blessing from the Saudis too, right? We dump money into them, and they don't have a problem with us kind of being the muscle over there. If you really think about it, we're like the muscle for them.
I know.
Yeah, we've been the muscle for the Middle East for a long time, and they use us. I mean, they do joint operations. They send people here to when during arms deals, we train their pilots, their soldiers. So I think we've been an extension of their military for a long time, and people don't realize that. So as long as we, you know, muscle these types of radical regimes in the Middle East so that they don't take control of those oil reserves, the Saudis are like, yeah, no problem, whatever, you know, like, we'll work with you. And now we're at the point where it's like our fucking president's going over there begging for prices to be dropped, you know, in crude oil. But there's a lot to say about that because I don't think it's just the Saudis, right? I think it's also, there is a lot of corporate greed. What can I say, you know? I think a lot of people I think people need to realize we're collectively getting fucked by both sides to a degree. You know, and that's really it. It's not the left and the right fighting. It's really more of the people. It's really more of me and you fighting, right? Like people fighting. When you think, listen, politicians sit down, they break bread. The left, the right, yeah, they put on a big show, but behind closed doors, they know that they want to keep their job. They're scared of a real game changer, a real person to come in and actually, you know, set a path forward for the people. So they're gonna do whatever they can to stay in those positions. And it's unfortunate, but we spend a lot of time fighting down here, and we don't realize that there's a lot of shit that they're not doing up top that they should be.
I agree on two things. First of all, you said they're scared to keep their jobs. One of the things that they should be scared of is us on keeping their jobs, but we're so busy voting for Democrats and Republicans anyway that they're not scared of us. They're scared of the people who they really think put them in power. So I feel like you're completely right about the fact that they're ignoring us and our will, and just they're going to the people like Mohammed bin Salman, who thinks that Biden thinks he can stay in office if he can fix this gas crisis. Is he looking at the American people and their will and what they want, or is he going to Saudi Arabia and begging for oil? This is how you know who he thinks he works for. This is how you know who he thinks he works for. He thinks he works for MBS, not us.
Well, Biden said it. He said, "I don't work for you." You know, in that interview that he had with that one local guy, I don't work for you. And I think that's kind of the attitude that the government has in general. When they reach a certain point, they no longer work for you. And I mean, they play on our emotions. So, you know, again, like I said, I'm not like a hardcore. You're not going to sit. Listen, today the House codified gay marriage. I'm all for that. You Gay people want to get married. I don't give. What the fuck do I care? You want to be miserable fucks like the rest of us? No problem. Get married.
That's what I say.
I'm fine with that. It has nothing to do with me. But if we were talking about, and I'm not trying to bring you off topic, but if we were talking about the situation where they want to teach, very young children in schools about sex and all that type of stuff and kinks, then I have a problem with that. But I don't have a problem with that stuff being taught to people that are, teenagers that are going through puberty. Yeah, I think you can talk about that. That's fine, because then I don't feel like that person is going to, that person is kind of grooming them. But I'm just saying, that's my thought process, right? Gay people want to get married, all for it. Have gay friends, we hang out. Not a big deal. We crack jokes on each other all day.
I'm curious, Jimmy. Like you said, you were a kind of libertarian, but pushed over to the right. What is that? Is that one of the things that pushed you over the teaching of all this stuff? And by the way, I kind of agree with you on this with young kids. I think when I was in third grade, I literally liked cartoons. I liked those Hot Wheels. And I like Ninja Turtles, and I was not thinking about anything but those things. Like literally, you could not get me out of the backyard trying to be like Michelangelo on the monkey bars. Like that's what I was thinking about. So I did not have any kind of. I agree with you on that stuff. So
well, what I would say pushed me over was, listen. I always say this, and I say this to Mike all the time too when we're talking on the Patriot Angle. If you met me 13 years ago, all right, I would probably in black bloc, Antifa, marching down the street as an anarchist. I wanted to see the world burn. I was fucking whatever. As I got older, have kids, right, I started to realize I do like structure, and I think that it's good for people. So I became more of a constitutionalist. And then what happens is really one of the biggest things is your views on guns. My views on guns kind of always pushes you over. I know Democrats that shoot too, but I mean, when you really start getting into the nitty gritty about it, and also I was also into conspiracy, right? And I don't say conspiracy theory because I do think the government has committed acts of terrorism against the people, and I think that is a real conspiracy. But
some of them are documented, like Operation Mockingbird, which is why I don't like the CIA.
Well, a lot of them are, every 50 years they release some kind of classified information that talks about some kind of a travesty that the government has done to the American people. And I always say this to people, and that's kind of what pushed me over, is that when I have those conversations, I think people more on the right are more willing to kind of conversate about it and say, yeah, we get it, like we understand a little bit more. But and that's really where it goes. And then now it's so difficult because if you're a Democrat or you're a Republican, people don't want to sit down and talk anymore. And I think that's what we should be doing, is trying to find some kind of common ground, because we all live in the same neighborhoods, And I used that example the other day when we were talking, right? And a lot of people use it. It's a great analogy. If you're on a plane and you hate the pilot, do you want him to crash the plane?
Yes, exactly. That's exactly how I feel. So with Biden's approval numbers being so low, his economic approval ratings from the Louisville Courier, and then it was, I believe, the CNBC poll. His economic approval rating is now at 18%. He's got the social culture war approval rating at about 30%. The poll said one good thing. It said that if Trump was going to run again, then 92% of Democrats would vote for Biden again if he saw a re-election. But to me, he quoted that part of the poll, Biden did. But on the other hand, he's only got 92% Democrats voting for him if Trump runs again. That means 8% of Democrats will vote for Trump if he runs again. That's that crazy?
Well, we still have another 2 years under Biden, so we'll see how far the rabbit hole goes. I don't think he's listen. I think people have such a hatred for Trump, and I'll be the one to say it. If Trump is running again, I'm going to vote for him, absolutely. But I'm not a MAGA maniac. I'm not foaming out of the mouth like, this is America. I got my flags, this and that. I'm going to vote for him because I thought we had a good 4 years under him. I think that maybe this time around, if he decided to kind of tame the way he talks a little bit, that could kind of maybe swing some votes from some Democrats. I think it's really just the way that he doesn't shut the fuck up at times, it always disappointed me. I'm like, oh, he's going off again, But
I
mean,
like some of
Biden,
the times that he went off. He talked about the military industrial complex. That is upsetting their apple cart when he didn't have the hell up, When he talked about the military industrial complex, they ate him alive. When he talked about when he vetoed the military budget. So Mike just asked me a question. He said, Tommy, are you going into a conservative transition? Progressives and conservatives, we agree on a whole lot of things. We agree on the lowering the cost of prescription drugs. We do. We agree on that. Rand Paul and Bernie Sanders tried to work on. It didn't pass. It didn't pass the Congress because Nancy Pelosi.
Yeah, but Rand's not a conservative though. They were libertarians. I mean, Ron and Rand have always been libertarians. Conservatives have a true conservative has a Christian religious foundation. I am not a religious person, so I don't have that. That's why I always say a lot of people are trending, calling themselves conservatives, and they're not. And I think that if people sit down and really kind of analyze what they are, they'll understand that they're closer to the center, or of whatever side they're on. There's a lot of shit we can agree on. So I don't think there's a lot of true conservatives. I think it's a lot of trendy conservatives. A lot of people think that that's what they're supposed to be. That's what they're calling themselves now. I'm a conservative. It's like, well, conservative is really a WASP. So you may want to reevaluate if you think if you're a Republican, that's fine. I get that. But true conservative is what they used to call WASP, right? White Anglo-Saxon Protestant. So that was kind of deep rooted as what a conservative is. And they made a lot of decisions based off of their religious foundation. And I'm not a big fan of that because I'm not a big religious person. I believe in God and, like the Bible's comforting to me, but I wouldn't banish someone for being gay. I wouldn't, I don't encourage, racism or anything like that. And I think that obviously we know that there's a lot of conservatives that are still in office that served under probably from the 60s, 70s, seeing integration and stuff like that. So there's a lot of stuff we can agree on. I think if we all just sat down and really thought about it like a real intellectual type of conversation, we'd understand. And that's why I think our dynamic is great with me and Mike is that, he's the pit bull and sometimes I gotta be like, and I kind of like even balance him out a little bit. So
he really is a pit bull though. He really is.
He is. He'll bite you. You better watch out.
I like it too though. Because sometimes too. Sometimes, and he doesn't mind if I start yelling on a show about steering leftist stuff like that. I feel like we have a good relationship there. But go ahead, Jimmy.
I don't think those. And me personally, I feel like those numbers are a little skewed. About 92% would vote
92% Democrats. 92% Democrats. So Democrats.
Man, wherever that poll is coming from or wherever they're pulling it from, I hope they redo the numbers because I don't feel like it's 92% of Democrats want to vote for him because he's a fucking walking corpse. Like, listen, if you hate Trump that much, whatever, I get it. I'm not going to try to convince anyone. People that hate Trump are typically usually they hate the guy with a passion. So I won't try to convince anyone, But Biden, come on, the guy fucking he's the frailest guy that we've had. And listen, maybe 10 years ago he'd be a little bit more, he'd be better spoken, right? Like the way he talks, but he's obviously suffering something. They got him on some good drip when he's fucking up there talking because
Tucker Carlson's on his ass. Tucker Carlson's on his ass, bro. Have you been watching Tucker Carlson? I do because I don't like Biden, and also he's entertaining to me. Some of the stuff he says is really, really true. And plus, everybody hates the guy. So, of course, I have to watch him. And he is on Biden's ass. He's trying to find out what kind of drugs he's on. He was the one who was talking about labs in Ukraine with Tulsi Gabbard, who, by the way, I endorse for president of the United States. I was a Tulsi back in 2020. And I think that she's the perfect uniter. I just want to put it out there, guys. I think she's the perfect uniter for the left. and the right to together and fly, because she actually believes that, and she's fighting for it every single day of her life. She's fighting for it so bad they kicked her out of office. That's how bad she's fighting for it. So, Tulsi Gabbard for president. But yeah, like these Democrats and Republicans, the midterms. So you're a registered Republican. You're gonna vote Republican, and if so, why?
Well, I think as we get closer, I'd like to. I always before I go into the booth, right? I want to listen to some strong arguments for both sides, and to me, it doesn't mean that I'll vote Republican across the board. So typically, I vote in, I vote for on the federal level, right, like presidential level Republican, but homegrown, lower level politics in my state. I'll vote Democrat. And my mayor is a Dem, and I voted for him. I mean, there was only two choices. They were both Democrats, but
that's how they do it in those cities. Are you in a big city? Are you a big city?
Yeah, I'm in a big city. I'm in Hudson County, New Jersey. So,
Okay.
we this is a super Democratic county. Just so you know, it's super blue. New Jersey is super blue as well. I will say New Jersey's cool because even though we have our differences, right? You don't see a lot of crazy shit over here as much because we do have a firm understanding. We're all crazy. So I guess we all have that like understanding, like shit can pop off at any time. So we respect each other's stuff and we know when and where to flaunt, our political status around. But we try our best to get together. In this area, it's crazy too, because you would think like New York City would be a super hot spot for certain things too, because I'm right across the water. But we have a certain understanding in the tri-state area up here, even though there's protests and stuff like that, and it got a little carried away. It never gets too carried away because it levels out. But coming up to the midterms, probably most likely all Republican. We'll see. It changes. I change as I go along. I don't put myself in a cage or like in a prison where I have to accept, just like you're not following, the democratic structure. You're like, I'm not happy with the president and I wouldn't vote for him. So it's like, you don't have to agree with they're politicians. Like I said, you don't have to necessarily say, well, this is the way I have to vote for the rest of my life, or this is the way that I have to think for the rest of my life. So I think that a lot of people should start to open up to that and think about that,
I agree with you. And there are civil servants, which is why I also kind of, with a lot of things that Trump did that I approve of, vetoing the military budget. By the way, the Republicans, they want to expand the military budget, which that guy just said in the interview. For some reason, we need to keep expanding the military industrial complex. We need to keep bailing out Wall Street, the banks, and we need to keep making sure that Pfizer, Moderna, and Johnson & Johnson have government contracts. All across the board, there's no choice. Republican and Democrats both believe that. So I'm saying that these guys are literally they're not even crispy waves and Crapsby waves. They're not even Rice Krispie treats and Christ Krispie treats. They're literally the same thing. As far as the foreign policy is concerned, they're the same thing. That guy just said in the video, Biden should have gone to Saudi Arabia. This is what I'm saying is that it's ridiculous, bloodthirsty foreign policy. We have a ridiculous, bloodthirsty regime change war foreign policy, and our domestic policy is just it's neglecting the rights and will of the American people. So in this case, why vote for either one of these parties?
But the spending has always, so each side has always come out and talked about spending, right? And I think that there's this misconception that Republicans want to cut spending on certain things. It's never been true. Both sides spend just as much money.
Yes.
The right usually puts money into the military industrial complex. It's always been that way. Most Republican presidents put more money into the military. Most Democrats cut the military spending, put it all into like, and I'm going to say bullshit because there's a lot of bullshit like social programs out there to me that I don't agree with. So, just like most people wouldn't agree with fucking,
What's funny, Jimmy, is that these social programs that the left asks for, they're nothing. You put all this money into these social programs, and they're not working well. It takes people. I was talking about that's with the congresswoman. They're still not working well. You still have to drive an hour and a half to the hospital. You still have to have some kind of health care from the Obamacare website in order for people to, it's like the worst. It's like the worst part of both sides. Like it's like the worst part of the both were privatized in public.
Most of the money doesn't make it there.
Still war.
Most of the money doesn't make it. The unfortunate part is that most of the money that is set aside for a lot of programs don't make it there, I don't believe. And then, we politicians, listen, growing up, I was Democrat and then moved over to Republican. Like I said, libertarian Republican. I grew up, in a bad neighborhood, grew up on assistance my whole life, up to my parents, stuff like that. They were drug addicts. So I seen it firsthand. We've been through the system, went to public school. That was like my only, eating public school breakfast and lunch was like my only meals for the day sometimes, shit like that. So the big issue I have, right, and I think a lot of people, and I would hope that Democrats do understand this, is that unfortunately in most of these big Democratic cities, these programs are not there to help you as much as they think they are, right? I think that if we sat down and restructured them, we'd be okay. Instead of just going, if you talk to Republicans, going to say, "Get off your fucking ass. I'm cutting the spending," right? Like Reaganomics, they cut a lot of social spending. It was like, get out and go get a fucking job. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that if you're living on welfare, right, those are mostly Democratic programs. Those are programs that a lot of politicians play on, but unfortunately, they don't work because when an individual makes just a little bit more than the assistance that they're getting, they get cut off from everything. So it's that vicious, it's that perpetual cycle. So again, both sides, if they could come together and start really talking about these things, that's where we should be restructuring on those levels, right? It's like, all right, we do have social programs in place, and we can't take people off that right now because it's just going to fail miserably. So how do we make it better, right? So that's kind of, when you see these big blue cities, there's no interest in really helping the people as much. There are liberal and Democratic politicians that have great viewpoints. There's some, true liberals really have a great viewpoint. Old school Bill Maher type guys are able to like really dissect and really think about it and about a lot of these issues that we're having, right? Policy, social issues. And they put a lot of questions into it. And I would hope that one day we can kind of try to fix those. But unfortunately, I almost feel, and I don't know, again, we may disagree on this, but I feel like, unfortunately, that's the Democratic platform in that area, okay? Keep the urban areas down, keep them dependent, keep them on there, because they need the voters, because they need people to keep believing that that's what they're catering to. Like, hey, we're catering to you guys, right? So it's like, vote for us, because we'll give you more shit. We'll give you, and it's not really more shit. It's like, we'll give you like, oh, we'll build this park over here.
Absolute lies. That's what it is.
And again, I know
crap.
And I get.
Hey, Roe v. Wade is on the ballot, Jack. Roe v. Wade is on the ballot. All right. It's lies, bro.
Oh.
They don't care about any of it. In fact, Mike is making fun of AOC right now. Do you see his comments on the screen?
Well, I did read the article, and listen, it's all a show. It's all a show, man. It's all a show. They go out there to put a big show on, and they get arrested. Charges will get dropped because obviously if they get prosecuted, they can't hold their position. So it's all a big show.
Yeah, exactly.
They're out there. Like, they're out there solidifying their votes. That's what it is.
They are. So that's what they're only interested in. I say don't give it to them. And also, by the way, AOC is like the worst because she's talking about unsettled law. She makes the laws, Everybody knows the Congress makes the laws. Why are you picking on SCOTUS, AOC? Why don't you give them some laws they can adjudicate? How about that, AOC? AOC, how about you get your ass in the fucking Congress building, make some laws, and then hand them to the Supreme Court after Biden signs them, AOC. Not be out in the traffic pretending to be arrested. This is just bullshit, bro. I'm tired of it.
Did you see that guy that approached her while she was walking into the building? He's
No.
like, AOC, it's my favorite big booty Latina, and he just kept going off.
Really?
She was fucking heated. She was heated. He kept going off. That was a pretty. You got to find that clip. That was a good clip. He got her at the right time. He knew when she was coming. When she was coming into the building.
I heard about that though. I heard about that, and then Marjorie Taylor Greene tried to put him on the show, her podcast. Those two should share an office. I would love to see, if you want to see have some good TV, Marjorie Taylor Greene and AOC share an office. Get this, and then they have to work at the same desk. And then you got like AOC trying to hide people. Marjorie Taylor Greene almost cut me. And then Marjorie Taylor Greene's like putting Post-its up her like in her mailbox and stuff like that. Those two would literally be great TV. I swear to God. But
and then you said you had Roe versus Wade on the ballot. Is that you wanted to go over that or no?
Yeah, I mean, I was going over it with the Congresswoman because like these people don't seem to they keep on blaming SCOTUS. I know in third grade, I got a political class, American diplomacy. I'll never forget it. They taught me there ain't no such thing as a free lunch, and they taught me that Congress makes the laws, the SCOTUS they rule on them, and then the judicial branch enforces those laws because we have checks and balances. And we have three branches of government. These Congress people don't seem to understand this. It's almost like they missed third grade class. So I don't understand why they're. Do you think it's the Supreme Court's law that they went back on their precedent? Like, what's your whole view on this, Jimmy? You tell me.
Well, I think. All right, the way I feel about it, I think about it in a more of a dark manner, and I don't mean to offend anyone, but I'm for Roe versus Wade because I don't think some people should reproduce, and I think that we're better off letting those people that are using abortion as contraceptive continue to use it as contraceptive. I'm not going to argue whether or not it's a baby or not. I know it's a baby. I know it's a living being, a living human being. But unfortunately, let's take a look at the people that use it in a way. The margin of people that are using it in the way that it always gets thrown around, like, oh, what about that 10-year-old girl that gets raped? Or what about the father who has sex with the daughter? Like that those were real reasons why Roe versus Wade was a huge thing, right? But I don't think that we're dealing with that right now. So realistically, what's going on is, and I guarantee you stat-wise, the people that are using abortion are using it as contraceptive, right? So the people who have the frequent flyer miles, I don't want them in a state where they can't, where abortion's not legal, and they're racking fucking kids up. I'm not for that. I rather abort away. I'm not trying to gain any brownie points with anyone, and I know people would be like, "Hey, that's kind of fucked up. Are you with us or not?"
You have to just Jimmy. You need to get a consultant, and you need to reword your words to make them sound better. But I can see a politician literally saying this, but like with a consultant. Like,
well, no. This is what a politician does say. This is like when you take the filter off. That's what they're saying. They're like, yeah, no problem, abort away because fuck it. I don't want to take. We don't want those kids on the system anyway. And again, it's a darker side of a viewpoint, but it's true. If it'd be a different tune if, like, you know, all of a sudden it's like you're living in a neighborhood and the family down the block is multiplied by 100 in the last fucking 5 years, and they're all on assistance. You'd have a problem with that. So, you know, my big issue though is that a good portion of Roe versus Wade supporters, okay, were what's their slogan? My body, my choice. Well, they didn't really. There's a good majority of people that did not agree with my body, my choice when it came to COVID vaccination. So, deep down inside, the troll in me is like, well, fuck you guys. You got what you deserved on that one. Because, listen, if it's my body, my choice, if a good portion of those people supported the vax movement, the non-vax movement, or the pro-choice vax movement, you get vaccinated or not, I'd be marching down the street too, holding a sign saying, women's rights. It's their right to abort. You know what I mean? Like, so again, if they want to ratify it, then put it through as a bill and see if it passes.
They're never going to do it. I don't understand why they're not going to do it. Why are they so lazy?
Because when something becomes a law, there's no money in it anymore. That's why.
Okay. That's you probably nailed it.
That's really what it is. Once it becomes, that's why they let these things linger. We say like think about it. They had to pass same-sex marriage like now. All right, well, why now? There's always been money into it. Once it becomes a law, there's no money into it. There's no funding. They don't fund it anymore. It doesn't become a big deal. People's pockets don't get lined with cash. So I don't know, but again, the ruling from the Supreme Court, I do understand the view on it somewhat, right? They're saying, well, we should allow the states to. I mean, originally,
that's the only thing that they can do because there's no law that they can rule whether it's constitutional or unconstitutional. So the Supreme Court's supposed to decide whether our laws are constitutional or unconstitutional. There's no law, so their precedent, I believe, in the first place, was unprecedented because there was no law to rule on, right?
Well, no, they deemed it that it's not part of the Constitution, just like they overturned the New York ruling on whether or not you can self-defense was a plausible cause for you to be able to carry a weapon, right? I feel like they did that first, knowing that there was going to be a lot of outrage. Like, yeah, first let's give them the ability to carry weapons for self-defense, and then let's stir the pot where they may have to be in a self-defense situation. So, but again, the way that they view those cases, right? They bounced it back to the states. Now, listen, that's the way it was intended. The country was built that way, right? It was the Fed. The Fed was never supposed to be this big. The federal government was never supposed to be this involved in our everyday life. Your state was supposed to be able to govern itself. That's why they have governors, and they call them governors. And they were supposed to be a representative, and the Fed was supposed to run the army and collect debt. So I don't see it as a. Where did I go? Sorry, I don't see it as a crazy ruling. I guess I listen. They couldn't have picked the worst fucking time, though. Let's be real.
That's true. That's true.
Like if this happened,
I thought the funniest time on Biden. Well, everything's failing. They pick the time where Biden's president.
That's
hilarious.
Thomas has definitely got he's got a thing for Biden. So
he does, right?
He got a thing for him. So I'm not surprised that it was overturned now. But again, I think a lot of people need to sit. A lot of people need to just sit back and again, this is why we're talking about it. People need to understand. Maybe some people will agree with me. Maybe some people will say I'm not hardcore enough about it. But I like George Carlin's perspective on it, right? And in one of his comedy, he goes, "Yeah, conservatives never care. They don't care about babies until they're military age, and then they care about them again. So they care about the babies in the womb. They don't care about the babies once they're born. But once they're able to carry a rifle and go into war, then they care about them again. So, yeah. Listen,
it's money. It's all about money, money. And that's another thing about that Michael's and I eternal fight about what's socialist and what's capitalist, and why, because this is a capitalist system that's making our president bend to the will of Mohammed bin Salman. This is a capitalist system that's making OPEC make the rules instead of the federal government. This is a capitalist system that's making an oligarchy form that allows them to give government contracts to themselves and the private sector and public sector to unite one symbiote. If you ever saw Spider-Man, a symbiote.
Yeah.
It's a venom. It's a venom.
Well,
so that's what capitalism seems to be doing.
Well, my buddy was I had a good conversation with a guy with a buddy of mine that I hadn't talked to in a couple of years. You know, he went off, he did his thing, got married, he's successful, and we hadn't talked in a while. And then he was real surprised that like I had gotten more into politics, right? Or it's because he always knew me as more of a conspiracy guy, but now he's like, oh, you know. So we had a good conversation. He was more of a Bernie guy, right? He was a big Bernie guy. And one of his viewpoints that I did agree with and I liked is he said that we were intended to be a capitalist economy, not a capitalist society. So and listen, I'm not, and I know a lot of people like me. Okay, I know a lot of people that may identify as right wing that are not bootlickers. We're not bootlickers. I'm not going to go out there and have a flag that says "Don't tread on me," but at the same time support police brutality or anything like that. And there's a lot of us out there like that don't agree with shit like that.
Good.
I think people get caught on the bandwagon with that. But when it comes to capitalism, unfortunately, there is an unfair. I mean, we get caught up in believing that giving tax breaks to these big mega companies is good for us. It's not, unfortunately. Again, I'm not, people might go, wow, I never knew this about this guy. I mean, the way he feels, but it's true. It's like giving a tax break to Jeff Bezos and not paying his taxes, rightfully so, kind of bothers me too. So I do see like other sides. I've seen a little bit of like what Bernie pushed for and shit like that. Not a Bernie supporter at all. I'm not really keen on a lot of his stuff, but I see like, oh shit, I get it. Like we should go after. If we're a capitalist economy, we should be going after. Like, I mean, when they almost own everything, it's like how much more breaks can you give them?
Yeah, I do. Well, Jim, it was a real good conversation, and I'm gonna go ahead and end the podcast. But you should be on the show more. You usually have a lot more people, but this is a good conversation 1-on-1. So come to the be a friend of the show. Come on the podcast anytime.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Knows, but I've yet to interview Sauce. I have a feeling like it's gonna be a more conversation, but
it could
I can't wait to do that. Could be, bro.
It could be.
Yeah. But good to have you on the program, bro. And I'm going to close out. So thanks for being on Tommy Nation Politics, Jimmy. That was Jimmy Durant from Patriot Angle Unfiltered Podcast. When can you they find you on the show?
You can find me on the show typically every Tuesday. It all depends. We try to work around everyone's schedule. Mike has a super busy schedule. But we try to work. We try to go live every Tuesday. It's been a pleasure since he brought me on the show as his co-host for those days, and and I think we're building a nice little network here. And maybe one day we'll all sit down at the table and
we will.
And maybe
that'll be fun.
Everything one day. We'll see.
All right, good to have you on. See you later, Jimmy. Guys, do you bend to the will of the conventional wisdom or not? Are you someone who rebels, someone who questions authority, who doesn't just watch the mainstream media and go along with the mentality? If so, www.tommynationpolitics.com. We're free thinking, innovative, new independent progressive media. And thanks for watching tonight's Tommy Nation Politics Tuesday live stream.